At one point or another in our lives, we've all had to give a talk or a presentation of some sorts. And chances are, if you clicked on this video, you suck at talking in front of the audience, just how I used to be. I don't anymore, so don't click off this video. Fear not, my friend, because after this video, you're going to go from this.
I don't want to get going because I keep you here too long, because you know all what what I've said, and you know what I've done, and you know what we're doing, and I know what you're doing.
To this. Whatever I decide to put in the edit.
Minnesota!
Firstly, let's talk about why is public speaking so important? Why am I making such a big deal out of it in the thumbnail or title or whatever? I'll probably put like big red letters or something like, you must learn public speaking. It is a very powerful tool to have in your arsenal, and it's gonna make your life so much easier. First of all, you're gonna have the power of persuasion on your side, meaning you will be able to influence people and their opinions and convince people, build better arguments. You might even convince your unemployed friend to uninstall League and finally do something with their lives. When you speak, you're going to have much more clarity. You're not just going to be jumping from thought to thought. Like, you know, some people, they just talk, they just yap. Like, you ask them how their day has been, and maybe they'll start off with some workplace gossip or something, and then in a matter of seconds, they will transition to a monologue about how lizard people run the government from the shadows. You're not going to be jumping from one surface level idea to the next, like a podcaster with 1.5 views. You're gonna be able to structure what you have to say at a moment's notice, stay on topic, and speak more coherently. Like, people are actually gonna be able to understand what you're talking about and what your main point is. You're gonna have better storytelling. I'm sure we all have that one friend who's just absolutely amazing at telling stories, and every time he speaks, everyone just gathers around him and they're all listening, they're all super engaged, waiting for what happens next. You could be that guy. You could have the charisma to tell stories like that. Lastly, you may be wondering, why should I learn public speaking if I'm not in a position where I talk in front of an audience a lot in my life? But it doesn't matter whether you're a McDonald's worker, a cleaner, or accountant, you're gonna be put in a position where you will have to speak at one point or another. Public speaking creeps up on you unexpectedly. I actually have a story from my personal experience that will really help to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make here. Back in high school, we used to have these annual public speaking events where every single person from every class would take a topic of their choosing and talk about it for 5 minutes. One time I decided to talk about quantum mechanics. Nobody understood a fucking thing I was saying, and everyone was really bored. That was just my terrible public speaking at play, obviously, but that's a different story for another time. This one year in particular, however, the school made this dumbass decision to take away our freedom of expression. They gave us like 3 topics to choose from, and we'd only have to pick one of them and talk about that one. So I decided that I was feeling really rebellious. I did not like this new change to the system that we've had going for the previous years. I decided to take one of those topics, which was like why veganism is good or something along those lines, and I decided to talk about the opposite. I decided to trash veganism. So the whole event had like 3 stages. At the first stage, you would talk in front of your own class, and that was super easy. I got in front of the class and I just started making jokes. Obviously I was making fun of the whole thing. I wasn't taking it seriously. I did not want to progress and get to the next stage, whatever, but people ended up loving it. They ended up like voting for me to go through to the next stage, and I obviously hated that. I was hoping to just, you know what, like make a little bit of fun out of the whole thing and just keep living my life. But no, I moved on to the second stage, and now I had to speak in front of like 3 teachers. There was a little board of teachers, and they all sitting there in front of their desk like this. And that also went really well, actually, because I thought to myself, you know what, these are just some teachers. I obviously won't pass to the next stage. They will see how unserious I am about this. I'm making fun of the topic that they gave me, you know? They're not gonna pass me through, obviously. Or so I thought. Next thing I know, I'm in the finals with this other guy, speaking in front of the entire high school. I get up there and I'm like this. I freeze up. I was not expecting to speak in front of the whole high school. I was trying desperately to fall off in the first two stages, but no. I was like this the entire time. I was stuttering, mumbling. I wasn't speaking loudly. I was forgetting what I was going to say next. I ended up winning the whole thing, funnily enough. I think it's because the other guy I was up against was the new kid, and everybody kind of knew me, so they probably just voted for me because I'm the guy that they know. But regardless of the fact that I ended up winning, it was terrible. The whole thing was a total flop, and it was a disaster. And it just goes to show that no matter how much you try to not speak in front of the audiences, sometimes you're gonna have to. You're gonna be put into that position where you will have to. And it's better to be prepared for when that time comes. Now that we've briefly discussed why public speaking is such a powerful tool to have in your arsenal, let me now provide you with some tips and tricks that will really elevate your public speaking game to the next level. First of all, you have to be aware of your audience. Every single audience and every single person is completely different. We all have our unique experiences. For example, culture, religion, age, sex, all these things, they play a role in how people perceive what you have to say. An experienced speaker is never going to go and just copy paste the same speech and give it in different countries to different people. No, they adjust it slightly to suit the audience that they're facing at that particular time. For example, have you ever seen how a politician addresses other politicians? Very serious, very formal. But then if they go and give a talk at a university, they're more casual, they're more informal, they're more like, you know, what up, my guy, you know. You have to adjust what you have to say depending on the people that you're talking to. Everybody is different. Next thing you're gonna want to do is abandon those scripts. Stop just memorizing scripts. That is the worst thing you can do if you're gonna be talking in front of other people. Because chances are you're going to forget, especially if you're prone to nervousness. You're gonna have all these thoughts and anxieties in your head, and at one point you're just gonna forget the next line and stand there like and you're gonna say a lot. That's another terrible thing. Cut out the uhs. That's gonna take a lot of practice. I'm even doing the uhs in this video right here. But once you stumble, your brain starts to race. You start to panic, and it's gonna make it even harder to remember the next line, and you're gonna pause there for even longer. Horrible stuff. Don't do it. Don't memorize. Even in this video, last video I sort of scripted, like half scripted, but I realized that it comes off less authentic probably to other people. So this time I'm doing something different, and this is what I recommend you do. Map out, structure out a little bit what you're gonna say with bullet points. Like every single topic, every single point that you want to make, just put a little bullet point, right? And then just study whatever you're gonna speak about. Just learn everything surrounding that subject so you're flexible and you know what you have to say. You know every single piece and bit of information about what you're talking about, and you just have it, you can just pull it out from your brain like that at a moment's notice. You're not just going to be trying to remember stuff. You're going to know this stuff. You're going to be comfortable with talking about it because you know it. So just structure it slightly, but don't have this rigid script. Don't do that. That's the worst thing ever. Let me now introduce you to a game that is also fun and you can play with your friends, and it will also improve your improvisational public speaking skills, which is also very important, being able to talk on your feet without any prior preparation. The game was first described about a century ago by an actor named Douglas Fairbanks, who would play the 1-minute yap game with fellow actors Mary Pickford and this little guy by the name of Charlie Chaplin, if you've ever heard of him. He was like one of the first free comedians to ever exist. The game went a little something like this though. Every participant would, on a piece of paper, write down any subject or topic they could think of. The piece of paper then went inside of a hat, probably one of those funny looking hats Charlie used to wear back in the day, but you can use any hat you'd like. You would then shuffle the pieces of paper around so you wouldn't know which one you're picking, and then take turns taking the pieces of paper out and reading what's on them. You would then go in front of the other participants and talk about the subject written on the paper for a whole minute. And I emphasize the word whole because I know some of you behind that screen are going like, that's easy, I could speak for a minute. But you would have to remember that some of these subjects were completely ridiculous. You would never know what you're talking about, and some of these topics you would have no clue in the world like what they are, zero knowledge, zero expertise. So you would really have to bullshit your way out of it. In an interview, Douglas described a noticeable change within himself and the other participants in this little 1-minute yap game. They were now much better at gathering their thoughts at a moment's notice. When before they would barely last 10-15 seconds and would be constantly stuttering, stumbling, looking for things to say, they're now able to bullshit their way around and last the whole minute. So this game is really helpful if you want to build up your improvisational skills, because there are going to be moments in your life when you're going to be forced to talk about things that you know nothing about. Or even if you're not, it's just cool to have, you know, being able to bullshit. You're going to be like a true politician. Go work in the government. The last thing I want to mention is the most generic advice that you're probably expecting, but you need experience. With every successful talk or speech or conversation or even attempt that you take, you're gonna build up and reinforce the idea that you can actually do it. You can actually talk under pressure with all the eyes in the world watching you. And this is a very powerful thought. It's gonna build up your confidence, your self-worth, and with every successful talk, you're gonna become better and better. So look for every single opportunity. If there's an opportunity for you to speak, just take it. It might not be the best speech you've ever given, but future you is gonna thank you, because future you is gonna have that experience behind his belt, and he's gonna be smashing every single talk he gives. Smash. Much like my last video, this one right here was greatly inspired by a book that I read recently, because my brain is completely empty and I have zero original thought. The book in question is this one right here, The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking by Dale Carnegie. I have no clue, to be honest, because I'm also apparently illiterate. But I greatly recommend that you check this book out if you're really serious about learning public speaking. I still haven't finished it, but it already equipped me with lots and lots of knowledge and tools. Even that story about Douglas Fairbanks and Charlie Chaplin, that was from that book right there. So I just steal ideas, man. I don't come up with anything. Regardless, I still hope you enjoyed the video and that you're inspired or encouraged a little bit to learn more about public speaking and get better at it. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do. You don't have to do any of that. If you didn't enjoy this video, then leave a hate comment down below. Be as mean as you can. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next one though. Bye bye.